Until the COVID pandemic, migration was one of the most debated topics around the world. With the current crisis, attention was drawn away by other and more pertinent matters. But migration as a phenomenon did not disappear and will for sure reappear in the headlines. My co-authors and I conducted a survey of literature to see what we know about the impact of migration on growth and inequality. This work will be part of a book on inclusive growth, edited by the IMF Institute for Capacity Development. Let me start with two statistics. About 3.5% of the world population lives in a different country they were born in. This share has remained stable since the 90s, but the share of migrants from developing countries to advanced economies has doubled, from 4% to 9% in the last 30 years. And this is the figure that has generated the most reaction in advanced economies. Let's first discuss the impact of migration on receiving countries. If we think about labor market as a simplistic model of labor demand and supply, then immigration represents a shift in labor supply. Everything else equal, more potential workers reduce wages and increase unemployment of natives. But we need to take into account other factors before assessing the impact of immigration on labor market. First, immigrants increase local demand as they consume and invest. Second, we see that firms often expand and move to where new immigrants arrive, generating investment and more opportunities for natives. If your city hosts migrants, I'm pretty sure there are some restaurants and shops dedicated to them. For instance, here in Washington, D.C., there are a few French bakeries selling baguettes and croissants, such as in Paris. Actually, some of these bakeries have French owners, and this drives me to my third point. Many immigrants are entrepreneurs, and they create firms and opportunities for natives. Also, in the longer run, the variety of skills and ideas of immigrants is highly correlated with innovation and growth in the receiving country. Finally, migrants often take jobs that are different and complementary to those of natives. Think about the parents that are able to go back to work thanks to foreign-born workers that take care of their kids. Taking into account all those mitigating factors, empirical evidence suggests that the impact of immigration on native wages and employment is close to zero. Let me now turn to another significant concern in the public opinion: the impact of immigrants on public finance. In the short run, migrants tend to impose a cost on destination country, essentially as long as they are looking for a job. These costs depend on the generosity of the social security system, the type and skills of migrants. In the case of advanced economies, where immigrants work at high rates, the initial fiscal costs tend to be small. But the picture is very different if we focus on the countries, mainly developing countries, receiving significant flows of refugees. These flows are often unexpected and imply a large short-term cost for the country. The IMF estimated the fiscal cost of Syrian refugees to be 1.3% of GDP of Turkey, 2.4% for Lebanon, and 3.2% for Jordan. Over time, though, migrants contribute to the destination country's revenue by paying taxes. As for native workers, higher skilled migrants are expected to contribute more to the tax system because of their higher income. Also, as immigrants typically arrive in the destination country early in their working age, they tend to have a higher net positive fiscal impact. The receiving countries save the cost of their education and benefit from the many contributing years before retirement. In countries where the native population is aging, like most advanced economies, immigrants help alleviating the burden on pension and healthcare system. So what can policymakers do in the receiving country? To reap the benefits of migration, integrating migrants into the formal labor market is key. Policy to help native workers during their adjustment and relocation have also proven to be helpful. While most economic migration flows are gradual enough for destination economies to plan and absorb, the case can be different for refugees. The reason to admit refugees are humanitarian rather than economic. However, if accompanied with the right policies, refugees can turn into a valuable economic asset for the receiving country. Let me now turn to Dmitry, who will talk about the impact of migration on countries of origin. Thank you.
Thank you, Magali. Let's now turn to the impact on the countries that migrants come from, the countries of origin. The first aspect of that is the impact on those who leave, on the migrants themselves. Here, one thing stands out relatively clear. The main driver of outward migration is the potential increase in incomes. Wages in developed and developing countries for the same jobs can differ by a factor of 10 to 1, sometimes a lot more than that. Once migrants get out of their country of origin, the actual gain from migration depends on many factors. It depends on age. If a migrant is younger, he or she has a lot of lifetime ahead to use the benefits of higher incomes. Other factors include education, skills that are in demand in the receiving countries, and then also adaptability, the ability to integrate in the labor markets in the society of the receiving countries. That is often missing. Data shows that migrants often have higher poverty levels, low educational health outcomes, are more likely to work in the jobs for which they are overqualified. Let's now turn to the impact on those who stay, the impact on the economies of the countries of origin. One bit of statistics: emigration tends to be a lot more dispersed than immigration in the world. Most countries have the fraction of people who have left that does not exceed 10%. So what I'm going to say about the impact on countries of origin is relevant for a lot of countries in the world. So how does outward migration affect countries of origin? It affects them through several main channels. One is the impact on the labor market. Part of the workforce leaves the country. Obviously, that reduces the labor supply. If a country had high unemployment before, that would relieve the tension in the labor market, that would reduce unemployment. So that's clearly a positive effect. But at the same time, it may reduce productivity, reduce human capital, reduce innovation. So the eventual impact on wages is actually ambiguous and unclear. Another positive impact of emigration is trade and investment. It may allow sending countries to better integrate into the global trade and investment. That may depend, however, on the skills of migrants, on the attitude and activity of the diaspora. One big potential concern about the outward migration is the so-called brain drain, the emigration of highly skilled and educated individuals. Data shows that this is, in fact, a valid concern. In some small, low-income countries, the fraction of people that are highly educated and have left the country is about 40%. And globally, the probability of emigrating for highly educated people is 2 to 3 times higher than for uneducated. So it is a valid concern. Now, brain drain affects countries, again, through several channels. It can reduce human capital, productivity, innovation. It can also reduce the quality of institutions. Highly educated, highly skilled individuals are often a powerful political force that drives in favor of better quality of institutions, better control of corruption, better business and investment environment. Once they are gone, that political force is gone as well. Brain drain can also affect countries through fiscal channels. It reduces the fiscal balance of the country. It also shifts the taxation from income taxes. They fall because highly skilled earners, highly skilled individuals have left the country in favor of consumption taxes, which increase because of the inflow of remittances. And that leads me to the issue of remittances, perhaps the most highly visible and often discussed impact of the outward migration. Remittances are high. The World Bank estimates them at $530 billion a year, and that's just officially recorded remittances. That's 3 times higher than official development assistance. almost as high as the foreign direct investment. So how do remittances affect the receiving countries? They can have a positive impact. They can reduce poverty, nutritional outcomes for the families that receive them. What's important, remittances are stable inflows. They continue in the times of crisis, natural disasters, conflicts, the times when other financial inflows usually disappear. Migrants continue to send money home, even in difficult times. That's one thing in which the current COVID crisis is different. Because in this crisis, migrants have often found themselves in a difficult situation in the receiving countries. They stayed for a long time without work or pay and were not able to send money back home. In some instances, we have seen the opposite phenomenon, families sending money to migrants in their receiving countries. Remittances can also have an impact on income inequality if families that receive them are low-income families. That effect has not really been confirmed in the data, however. Finally, one problem with remittances is what I would call the danger of addiction. High and stable inflows for the countries that send the migrants out have the danger of governments getting used to them. And they can reduce the incentive to implement difficult, painful, but necessary structural reforms. So with all that said, what are the policies that countries that send migrants out can pursue? For them, it really boils down to providing more and better employment opportunities to the population. That can be done by ensuring better business and investment environment, through ensuring macroeconomic stability, better institutions, better control of corruption. It can also be done by better utilizing the remaining workforce, by providing them with education, on-the-job training, better skills. So to conclude, we have seen that migration is driven by a powerful force, the search for higher income, for better living standards. It presents both challenges and opportunities for receiving as well as sending countries. The trick for policymakers is to overcome the challenges to make use of the opportunities. This is perhaps easier said than done, but we hope that some of the ideas we presented here can help. Thank you very much for watching.